Alright, and welcome back to episode 10 of our legendary Ultimate General Civil War Union campaign. This is heading into Gaines's Mill. This is actually my favorite of the grand battles in this campaign. So I purchased 4 more officers for the army to help fill out the Second Corps. We also picked up a few loose items for Second Corps, mainly some Lorenzes to finish up the brigade, and 302 extra sharps so that we could grab an extra skirmisher unit. And the rest just went into filling out our cavalry unit back to full strength. So we're going to actually take a decent amount of money into the next battle so that we can purchase all the weapons we need. And I'm just showing here that we still have some leftover weapons, so we could have built more brigades, but the way that our army is built right now, this is the maximum number of units you can bring into this battle, so there's no need to add any more units. And we've purchased all the weapons that we're interested in using. Moving forward, all the money that we're going to save is just going to be allow us to also purchase all the weapons in the next armory. That includes all the good artillery here. As you can see, I've put just about all the artillery into the army. I think in hindsight, a lot of this artillery in Second Corps doesn't actually get to do a whole lot of fighting, so maybe it makes sense to build an extra infantry unit instead next time. However, I think a lot of that artillery was actually already built from Shiloh. So as you can see, 2010, those 10 reinforcements are going to join pretty late. The infantry there is going to help bottle up his units, which are going to join the battle and try to flank us. And mostly it's going to be a fight that First Corps is going to spend a lot of time fighting. And this is going to get a lot of our, second and third division infantry units, which don't have a lot of experience at this point, a lot of good XP. As this is a really, really advantageous fight. As you can see, I'm just speeding up this footage, and it's just me giving a bunch of orders and moving troops around. And then even this initial part I'm going to speed up because it's just us moving into position, waiting for the enemy to arrive. And if you recognize this terrain, this is actually the exact same terrain that they use for, I think, is it Secure River or River Crossing? I get the titles mixed up, but in any case, another battle that I really enjoy fighting. Ironically enough, this time we're on the eastern side of the bank as opposed to the west where we were last time, but we're still going to use this really great hill and river, shallows to really punish the enemy. And the enemy likes to do this really consistently. He loves to send AP Hill out way ahead of the army. So I just kind of jump him here while he's in the water and then move my troops back, allowing them to reload. This is a battle where it's really critical, I think, to juggle your troops so that they're out of range, so the enemy pushes across the shallows, and then you move them forward into range. You fire down on him, he routes because he takes so much damage, and then you move them right back so that you're not doing infantry, one-on-one trades with both troops comfortably on their side of the river, firing volleys. We really want to encourage them to cross the river. Here, this is a little bit tricky as I don't want to commit too many forces to this northern part of the battle, as he really lays off being aggressive here, but he does send these 3 troops initially, so he also sends them at kind of a weird oblique angle, so we're going to try to punish that without taking too many volleys ourselves. We're mostly successful at that. Again, we don't want to be close enough that he's able to fire at us from the side of the river without crossing into the shallows, so we're really trying to find that optimal engagement distance here. Our 24 pounder rather is really going to have a great time in this battle, both sets. This is really ideal conditions for them. They can just sit back. They don't need to be advancing. This is kind of a defensive mission, so that's where 24 pounders are really excellent. I really use them in offense as well. They do great, but they're even better on defense where they don't need to be constantly redeploying. They can kind of sit in a particular spot and just deal a bunch of damage. So I'm going to be really aggressive with these skirmisher units as they are going to cause some problems for us. The skirmisher units have better vision than the rest of his troops, so if we can eliminate them, it will make it a little bit more difficult for the enemy to spot our troops, and thus more likely that he crosses in the river and we to get the first shot off on him. So I'm going to have these guys run forward, get a couple volleys off on him as he's retreating. And I've got two, or actually three good long-range artillery. I've got two 20-pounders and one 14-pounder. The 14-pounder James cannon, it isn't the best artillery out there, but it's really good at kind of these early battles, and you really need kind of a dual-role artillery. It has pretty good range, it does pretty good damage from range, but it also does pretty good damage up close. It's not amazing at both, it's kind of a mediocre all-rounder, but in these early battles where I'd really like to have another 24-pounder, I'd really like to have another 20-pounder here, but I just don't have enough brigades. It kind of does a good job of filling in both roles. It can do good canister damage when the enemy troops get in the water, but it can also punish enemy artillery anytime it shows up. And we want to do some counter battery fire. Yeah, our 20-pounders are going to have a great day. Just about all of our artillery is really going to have a good day. This is a really ideal setup for the army that we're building, which is probably why I enjoy this battle so much. So now after he's pushed through this northern, or rather after he's failed to push through this northern part, he's going to try to actually start pushing through the center part. And so we're going to kind of readjust to try to counter that. He gets more and more aggressive as he kind of tends to move down the line. He starts being aggressive in the north, and then he moves to the center, and then he moves to the south. And that kind of happens at each phase when he gets new troops into this section. So we're ultimately going to have a lot of troops here in the south, as that's where his troops tend to focus. And as you can see, he's got like 4 or 5 infantry units now here on the center. So I'm going to go ahead and move one of these 24-pounders over, as we're not really going to be needing him much more. The important thing here is, while we want to get shots on his flanks here, we don't want to be too aggressive with these troops on the flanks, as they're going to give, if we get too close, we're going to give shots to troops that are sitting on his bank of the river. So we're going to commit enough troops to kind of bottom them up and keep them in the shallows, but we're not going to overcommit and potentially take too many losses on our flanks. Another good thing to keep in mind here, a little bit too early to really be doing this yet, but there are particular positions where infantry sit here where they tend to take more losses than others. And here I'm just trying to take advantage of the fact that I can just barely see his artillery. So I'm going to go ahead and pause and make sure my artillery gets shots in on that. I pause because if I misclick and you click outside of the enemy artillery, your unit will usually start to limber up, and I don't want them to do that. So if I pause and I misclick, I can rather try clicking again, and it won't waste time forcing my artillery to limber up unnecessarily. But as I was saying, it's important to kind of rotate your infantry around on this front, as there are particular positions where your infantry sit where they take more damage than others, and we want to kind of spread our losses out. Obviously we want to take as little as possible, but it's ideal for us if we can get our infantry to kind of each take 100 to 200 casualties, instead of having one of our units get a bunch of kills but then also take 600 losses. You know, a unit who takes a ton of damage, even if they get a lot of kills, is still not going to come out of the battle with a ton of experience. So we want to kind of spread it around, get all of our troops in fighting, but also all of our troops in here taking some of the hits. We're going to be partially successful at that. It's kind of hard to pull off, as the enemy is pretty relentless on this front, and we don't get a lot of breaks to really reorganize this army. Not to mention, when the enemy troops start coming from the north, we're really going to be trying to bomb around the map, microing, and we won't necessarily always have time, but we're still going to give it our best shot. So I'm having this artillery move over, and I think I'm going to go ahead and move this 24-pounder as well, because he really is focused right now on the center part, so it's important that we have our 24-pounders here to kind of juggle those units, keep them routing instead of all concentrating here in our center. As he actually has decent cover here with this kind of, three-way delta in the shallows, you can a little bit easier get into cover on this front. So it's important that we have artillery here to hit him with those 24 pounders and encourage him to rout instead of staying in these and exchanging volleys with our infantry. And here you can see once again he's got 4 infantry here in the center, so now we have both our 24 pounders online. We're firing into his flanks to some degree. Once those units get out of the way, we'll be able to push him back and go back to our nice fun routine of just bouncing his units as they come one at a time across the river. And as you can see, his artillery is really aggressive here, so I'm using my long-range artillery to try to degrade his artillery so that he's not doing too much damage to our troops. He is ultimately going to do a lot of damage with his artillery in this battle because it's a great battle, it's a longer battle, but we're more concerned with the artillery that's forward as opposed to the artillery he has way in the back, kind of doing 1 to 2 damage per volley. So again, I'm going to start shifting my artillery to the right, as I know that he's kind of finished with the center aggressive movement. He's going to start moving to the south with this current force that he has. And since he's kind of left this artillery unguarded, I'm going to go ahead and sneak one of my infantry units across to see if he can get some hits on him. Anytime you can really degrade the enemy artillery, especially when you can do it for free, it's really worth it, as at this difficulty level his artillery is really strong. He doesn't necessarily have the strongest guns just yet, but they have 3 stars, they've probably got a couple perks that increases accuracy, increases damage, etc., etc. So yeah, this first part of the battle, just nothing but fun. This is actually one of the battles that I've probably played the most, insofar as I usually make a save before all my battles, and even if I'm not in the middle of a campaign, this is a common battle that if I'm missing this game, I'll come back to and just load up this battle, play it once or twice. It's just a really good time. This is one of the most fun missions in the whole game, I think. Phase, but before we do, I'm just trying to route these guys, get them out of the water, push them back, so that I have some time to readjust when the next phase starts. So he's going to get kind of a new, fresh spawn of troops, and we want to make sure that these guys are pretty degraded so that they don't kind of rebound right when the new enemy forces arrive. Yeah, just trying to keep my ammo wagon moving. This isn't a mission where you run super critical on ammo. It isn't terribly long for a grand battle, but still, it's good to keep our units full of ammo. So I just cut the phase transition there footage, as it's just me kind of clicking around. And he's now going to come in. All of his charge meters have been reset, and as you can see, he's starting to focus a little bit more here on the south. But that's okay. I think the south is actually probably the easiest to hold. He doesn't have as much cover. We have pretty good vision, so we can see his troops. He's got the skirmisher unit here, but once that's gone, he's not going to have as much vision. And we have this 24 pounder here now, so it's really going to help us bounce his units out and prevent them from getting into this cover across the river. So I'm starting to think about the next phase. And I know that there's enemy infantry who likes to come this way, and a lot of times when I fight this battle, I tend to move a little bit too slowly to the enemy's movement from in the north, and I know that we're not going to get as much attention here on this western flank, so I'm going to move one of my infantry units over preemptively, I know he really likes to move towards the objective, so I'm going to have a unit there resting up in cover, ready to address that unit that likes to, or any of those units that are going to try to slip past and take one of the flags. Here you can see every time we try to fire, he starts routing. If you don't know, the troops, even your artillery, especially your infantry, will stop mid-volley if a unit starts routing. So kind of funny to see it happen twice in a row there, but ultimately we're able to still get volleys in on these guys, and they're routing, they're not firing back, and we're just getting free damage on them. So I'm going to move this infantry unit forward because I know that there's a guy who's just advanced into the shallows here, and I want to get vision on him. And there's some funny spots on this river where you can't really see, so he takes a big volley to the face, but now I can finally see that enemy. I can hit him with artillery, I can hit him with my other infantry. Now he's going to advance a little bit here in the north. We have slightly less than we did last time, so we're going to have to be a little bit careful, but he really approaches this north in a very strange angle in this, phase of the battle. So I'm not terribly worried about it. I just need to be careful and make sure that I have sort of one of my eyes on this front. As you can see, he's just he walks very lazily right in front of my troops, giving his full flank, about to walk into the shallows. So he's gonna donate another artillery unit to my long range artillery, which is always generous. You have to be somewhat careful, as the enemy does like to try to sneak an infantry unit around the southernmost flank. The units there are really slow, as that's marshland. In marshland, you get a huge, decrease in movement speed. It also increase exhaustion, so your troops are going to be tired before they get out of it. All in all, it's a very slow maneuver if he tries to move that direction, but this battle is long enough that he can eventually sneak a unit around if you lose track of him. There's also some weird vision spots in here where if you move a little bit farther south from there, your units are effectively hidden, and so you may not even know there's an enemy coming that direction unless you're looking. So I like to leave that last infantry unit, kind of southernmost infantry unit, sticking out just a little bit so that it can get some vision and make sure nobody's trying to sneak around. And if they are, I can have them run out, hit a few volleys into him, and hopefully make him rout. So here, unfortunately, he is trading with the across the river, which is not what I want, so I'm going to have him back up just a little bit to try to encourage him to cross the river. This is the name of this battle, and there's kind of a weird thing here where my unit C is going to have, my C brigade rather, is going to have range to hit him while he's in the water, and my A brigade doesn't. I think that's because of the hill advantage that C is currently getting. In any case, it means that I'm going to basically just sit here with Brigade C, fire on him and he's not going to be able to fire back, and he's just going to sit there and take it, so no reason. I'm going to try to move A up, but you can see A has to move pretty far forward just to get shots on him. By the time he does that, the enemy's able to fire back, so I think, you know what, if we're doing free volleys into him, let's just keep doing free volleys into him. We're not in any hurry on this battle, we got plenty of time. We can let A rest and not trade volley for volley. If we can do 3 volleys on him, we'll take it, you know. And as you can see, he does have a lot of troops here in the south, but they're all really degraded. I mean, they're really low. They're down to almost 1,000, which means they're probably near the shattering limit. And that's exactly what we want. So our reinforcements have joined, and we're basically going to send our quick-moving troops as far north as they can go, as we want those troops rather to intercept his artillery and prevent his artillery from joining. And ironically enough, he's also going to keep his general with his artillery units, so he's going to have basically completely unsupported infantry marching towards our infantry there, and that's exactly what we want. You know, he doesn't have his general, so he's not going to be able to recover from morale shocks easily. We're going to have our guys in cover, so they're going to be doing more damage to him, and his artillery is going to be kind of perpetually harassed by our sniper and cavalry unit, so they're not going to be able to join the battle either. And that's kind of how we're going to isolate these enemies which are coming from our northeast at the moment. But back here on the western flank, we are continuing to kind of punish him whenever he steps in the water, continuing to try to do some damage to his artillery. If you get lucky, you can sometimes find moments where you can sneak an infantry unit across and try to, you know, take out some of his artillery. That might be worth it, and I might want to experiment with that a little bit more in the future. But he does bring quite a bit, so it would be quite the tall task. And here I'm just trying to make sure that I'm doing damage to this unit who's clearly trying to sneak around my flank. So I'm just shifting some units over to take care of it. And again, I've got quite a few infantry units here on the north. And here you can see the enemy. As you can see, they kind of come in from that northeastern corner of the map. We're going to have some infantry up here to take care of them. And we may not be able to, I think we do end up getting all of these guys. But for now, we're just trying to delay, as these are completely unsupported infantry. When we have our second corps join, we can kind of gather all of our troops together and take out these infantry units one by one. As you can see, just moving our auxiliary units to the north, they're going to be, harassing his infantry as they move across and eventually trying to take out his artillery. As you can see, he's trying again to march through the southern marshland, but he's really, really slow. And he's also slow on the maneuvers, so you can really take advantage of that. He's going to try to walk one direction. You can hit him in the flank. He's going to take 8 years to try to turn and fire back at you, so it's not the units that dangerous as long as you can see them. So you got to make sure to kind of keep one of those units out there, keeping vision on that far south. And now that the northern push is pretty much done, I'm going to have the last remaining infantry up there to the north kind of take up that central position that we were using before. And with this cavalry unit, I'm kind of trying to just find a good spot. And this is unfortunate. I take a few officer casualties in this one. I mean, I guess it's not a casualty as he's just wounded. It means he'll be back after Malvern Hill, but less than ideal. What can you say? Still taking less officer losses than I used to when I played this game, and luckily a lot of injuries instead of casualties. So injuries aren't too bad, as it means you get the officer back, but I'm pretty sure you lose out on quite a bit of experience if your officer gets wounded in the middle of the battle. I'm not sure if you get full XP that the unit would have gotten up to that point, if you will. I know that obviously once he's wounded, your officer's not gaining any more experience, but I'm also not sure if he gets all the experience that he got before he was injured, so it'd be an interesting one to look into. So this enemy here is kind of on rails. You know, he's kind of just marching in one direction towards the objective. And so we're going to try to exploit that by hitting him kind of in his flanks when he's not expecting it. Try to do some damage, try to work 2-on-1 or even 3-on-1 like I am right now. So these guys are pretty tired as I had them run up here, but they are still going to do their job because they outnumber the enemy, and so they can do everything, you know, kind of bottle this guy up and keep him from advancing on our flag. So I moved this 24 pounder over. I think that was ultimately a good idea, as he does send a couple infantry units there. But that 24 pounder would also have been pretty useful right where it was, and I wonder if that was a good choice or not. I think it's kind of a wash at the moment. I think the bigger mistake I made was the way that I oriented Third Corps with that Whitworth. That joins pretty late in the battle, and then he's not going to get a ton of work done from the position I put him in. I wonder if taking a 12-pound howitzer or something else in 3rd Division to assist these initial 3 units here would have been more beneficial. You know, Whitworths are great. They're especially good at long battles like the ones we have coming up, but they don't shine quite as bright at battles like this where, you know, the total battle time is only a couple of hours. So, and especially when they join the battles late, like they're going to here and like they're going to at Malvern Hill, I think that they're still worth getting. I mean, they still do a lot of damage. They're still a really nice weapon system in that they're kind of fire and forget. You know, you set them up, they fire at the enemy, you continue firing until the enemy's gone or until the battle's over. So you really don't have to micro them too much, which is nice, unless you're trying to do counter battery fire. And even then, for counter battery fire, they do a pretty good job because they have such good range. You know, if you can see the enemy artillery, your Whitworth can usually hit it. And this is actually really ideal. I mean, he just kind of sits here, and not his artillery necessarily. I mean, this is also great. This is what we planned on doing. But his infantry, kind of just south of this, just kind of ends up sitting here, which is really nice. You know, I'm not sure exactly how repeatable that is, but it's really nice when the enemy cooperates like that. You know, he's just going to sit there, and these units don't have amazing weapons. I'm pretty sure these guys have 42s. And he's just going to sit there and let them do volleys, and he's not going to fire back. So, hey, whenever the enemy's willing to cooperate like that, you just got to take it. So we steal his supply wagon. His supply is still pretty high, so we're going to take those dollars with us into the next battle. I'm taking some losses on my artillery here, so I gotta be a little bit careful. We don't have medicine yet, so if those artillery units take 25 damage, we're gonna lose gun, and we really don't want to lose a 24 pounder. So pretty soon I'm gonna have to start being a little bit less aggressive with my 24 pounders over there on the western flank, as I think right now he's already on 20 losses. So yeah, you can see here, I'm just sending my cavalry unit back far enough that he falls out of vision. That causes his artillery to limber up. You know, he loses his reload, he turns back, etc., etc. So again, cutting some footage now that we're in the third phase of the battle. He's going to have some more reinforcements again, but we're going to get our second corps in here, and we're going to be able to wrap, you know, kind of like mop up these troops that have joined in on the north. So yeah, just moving in, doing some damage to his artillery, then he limbers up, and then we come back, and we're just trying to keep them in place, you know. We don't want those artillery advancing, we want them to kind of be stuck without any infantry support so that we can do damage to them with our sniper and cavalry unit. So yeah, once again, just trying to hit, whenever I can see his artillery, trying to hit him with my long-range artillery to really reduce that, as his artillery is what's probably going to do the majority of the damage to our troops in this battle, just because they're able to kind of sit there all battle and fire at our guys who aren't necessarily in great cover. So yeah, just trying to keep these infantry units from advancing too far. There may be a better tactic here where you let them advance a little bit further and then try to surround them, but it's kind of hard to pull off. You know, he isn't quite as cooperative. He tends to move the units piecemeal, so it's hard to get a good surround. You know, you might surround one unit, but then the rest of the enemy comes from behind. So right now we're just trying to pin them in place with these few units that we have from the reinforcements from First Corps, and wait for that Second Corps to come in. And once that Second Corps comes in, we're going to be in really good shape. You know, the troops we have here can definitely hold these guys. It's just they can't necessarily get a full surround and wipe just yet. So we're just holding them in place, doing some damage to them, trying not to take any damage ourselves. And yeah, just continuing to harass the artillery over here. This is exactly what these guys are really good at doing. So this unit continues to advance, so I go ahead and push my 1st Brigade Division over here. I'm going to have this other guy join in. And this is kind of just how you have to fight this side of the battle. There may be a better tactic, but I think this works well enough. Just kind of juggle the enemy, hit him in the flanks, you know, hit him from behind like I'm about to do here. Just kind of bully him. Okay, so now our Second Corps has finally joined the battle. That's great. We're going to get them moving. I cut some of the footage of me just kind of giving them all orders, but yeah, we're going to get them moving. We're going to go ahead and have them run. This is one of those battles where it's so short once you get these troops in here that it just makes sense to kind of tell them to run, as if we had them walk, they would probably get in a position where they could fight with only a couple minutes left to fight. So we're going to go ahead and have them run. It'll get them some good experience. It'll allow them to have higher endurance for other battles, even if their combat ability is going to be slightly degraded by the fact that they're going to be exhausted. We're going to have the enemy hopefully routing by the time they get here, so it's not necessarily going to be game breaking. And And I'm going to have another infantry unit over here commit to the center, as I kind of have two units both converging on my flag there, and I don't necessarily have the coverage yet to deal with that. I'm never sure exactly where the enemy's going to start moving once they retreat, especially with these northern forces, so I'm playing a little bit of a guessing game where I think he's going to go, and I don't always get it perfectly right. So I'm going to have this unit kind of hit him in the flank while he's in the shallow. Luckily that one starts routing, so I can have this unit turn and address this one. So ultimately it works out pretty well, but I'm going to have this guy come up here and join. And this artillery unit's getting pretty low, so I'm going to reposition him. He tends to get pretty aggressive in the center at the end, so I'm going to need him kind of towards there, but I need him to be slightly less aggressive, because I don't want him taking any more losses, so yeah, just finally moving these troops into position, trying to corner these guys. This guy's going to start, in the center of the map. He's going to actually retreat towards the southern part of the map, so I need to get some troops over there to deal with that. I could be microing a little bit better. There's some units here in the north that could be pursuing an enemy who was previously routing. These auxiliary units aren't doing damage right now because they both ran away. But, there's kind of, we're quickly turning into this battle going from a nice, comfortable, unstressful one front to having multiple fronts as we try to bottle up all these enemies. But, that's okay. It's good practice. I'm trying to use less and less pause micro, as I think it's really uninteresting to watch. And I think, it's necessary sometimes, like when you're giving artillery, orders to fire on a unit that's hardly visible. But I'm just trying to, as a general rule, use a little bit less pausing, as I think it's a little bit more fun and also just easier, easier viewing. But especially on, at the end of this, battles like these, it can be kind of difficult, as you're ultimately kind of microing 4 or 5 different little mini fronts. So yeah, keeping his artillery busy, trying to move into the woods here so that even if we exchange volleys with this infantry unit who was previously running away, even if we do, we can at least trade favorable as we're in cover and he's not. I'm going to keep trying to encourage my 20-pounders to do damage here on the west, as the units in the north and kind of center, we're going to hopefully bottle up, and we don't need much additional help dealing with that. We are going to let some of them through the noose. Unfortunately, my micro wasn't totally perfect, and this unit here in the south is actually going to sneak southeast, which wasn't really the direction I was anticipating him to retreat, but what can you do? You can't always completely anticipate the enemy's movements. I went ahead and moved this 24-pounder back, as I've kind of dealt with this problem here in the center. Now I just need to kind of team up on him with my infantry. But it'd be nice to have that 24-pounder back here in the center to help deal with this infantry who are still trying to cross the river. So even in these defensive missions, it's really important to keep your 24-pounders moving between, different crisis zones so that they're really getting the most out of their close-range damage. And so I kind of lose track of this infantry unit here in the center, with these 2 infantry kind of in the north center who are hunting for him. Again, probably just too many fronts that I'm trying to micro. And as you can see, this artillery is pretty slow moving. Only have about an hour left in this battle, and it's not even close to joining the battle yet. So, not sure how useful this artillery ends up being, but more infantry probably wouldn't have been that much more helpful either. So I'm spotted as artillery again. I make sure to get my long-range artillery firing on that. even though they were turned and looking the wrong direction. So accidentally get into melee here as I'm pursuing this guy. You know, that's alright. It's not ideal, but we're just trying to pursue these guys, and that's gonna, as long as he's routing, we're ultimately happy with the result. A lot of these guys are pretty exhausted, so they're not going to perform particularly well in melee, so we're not necessarily trying to get in melee is what I'm trying to say, but we can, putting them into melee still allows us to do damage to them, which is all we're trying to do. We're trying to finish these units off, not let them rejoin the battle, not let them threaten our flanks again. So we're just moving these guys forward, trying to create a little pocket with these artillery and this last remaining guy. And man, I really thought I had this guy bottled up. I thought I had 2 units here. We're going to kind of bottle him from the north, we're going to bottle him from the east, and then get 1 unit to his west. But unfortunately I lose vision of him, and he just kind of slips through my eastern side of the pocket that I was trying to make, so that's unfortunate. Over here, I think that he's not going to retreat into my skirmisher and cavalry unit, but he surprises me and does it. Probably could have taken an infantry and gone north a little bit quicker, but again, sometimes these engagements are less than perfect, but it's, you know, trying to deal with them and get a W and get good results out of it anyway. Almost, you know, walk right into a melee there. Luckily catch it, tell the guy to back up. And I'm just trying to be aggressive, as I really don't love the next battle in this campaign. Malvern Hill is one of those battles where the enemy starts off with a huge numerical advantage, and you slowly gain forces as the phases continue. You do get decent defensive ground, but it's not amazing, and it's really not near as good as this battle. You also don't get a ton of time. You know, Malvern Hill is one of those battles, kind of like this one, but, you know, to a much worse degree, where you don't get enough time to do damage to the enemy. So I want to do as much damage here as I can and hopefully bring him down to the minimum before that battle, so that we can, again, hopefully have enough time to eliminate as much of his force as possible. Here you go. You can see this unit escaping south. That was unfortunate. Escaping east, rather. Kind of unfortunate. We could have potentially bottled all those guys out, but instead he sneaks out. We don't actually finish that unit off. But you know, and this is also a less than ideal engagement here. It could have potentially microed this a little bit better, but we're still going to get this guy, and that's the important part. And I think that might be a good argument for why, you know, as I'm kind of watching this battle, it might be worth it to let these enemies advance just a little bit farther so that we can bottle them up and get them to retreat all together in one direction instead of these, you know, multitude of different directions. Because it's just a little bit taxing to kind of keep track of all these little pockets we're trying to form. But ultimately, we achieved our goal. These units that came for our northern flank are all routing. They're all being pursued. Whether we get them or not is another story, but they're not, you know, they're not posing any threat to us right now. And that unit is shattered, so let's go ahead and send our cavalry and our sniper over to help. Let's send the rest of our infantry down south to try to maybe cut off this guy. You know, we only have 30 minutes in-game time, so not a ton of time, but let's see what we can get done. So again here, just trying to rotate the troops. I noticed that this second aide was really taking a beating. I mean, he's already on 400, getting close to 500. It's a little bit less than ideal, but as long as we can keep him at 12, I'll be reasonably happy. This D division this D brigade, rather, of 1st Division, hasn't taken too many losses, so I can be a little bit aggressive with him. And this guy's really been whittled down. I've got my cavalry here, and this is a good trick to kind of show you how the cavalry's really slow in the turn, but they turn a lot faster when you give them particular orders. So they turn about face really quick, so you can actually have them turn about face and change angles really quickly that way, as opposed to just having them lazily turn to the right and eventually get online. And yeah, we're probably not going to have enough time to catch them all here, but it's good to have your units moving anyway, as the more they move in battle, the more they get experience. This is almost a little bit dangerous, as my D brigade here goes a little bit too far and gets some flanking damage in from him from the other side, so have him back up. Luckily he was in okay cover, so he's doing alright, but good example right there of why it's good to have just one more infantry brigade kind of on that northern bank of that Y-shaped feature there. That guy's finished off, so I can send these guys over here. Just only 7 minutes left, so not a whole lot left to do other than just pouring a little bit more damage. This guy's almost shattered. He's walking into the water now, hopefully. We've got some more infantry over here who are still coming for us, but they don't really have time to threaten our line, so we're trying to hold them back. And this is a little bit frustrating. Luckily he's only wounded, but one of my starting 4 officers got injured there. Not ideal. I like to train those guys up to be ultimately my generals and my corps, so that's kind of a bummer. He's going to potentially lose out on some experience, but here we go. You can see the final result. We almost got 40,000 of them. We only lost a little more than 3,000, so our final KDR is 12.17, which we're really happy with. Really, really enjoy this battle. This is one of my favorites. You can see we didn't have units lose too many. We had only 3 wounded officers, which isn't ideal, but still isn't too bad. We captured a lot of great weapons, and we got some supplies. We picked up a bunch of his Tylers, which Tylers are a pretty decent weapon. We're going to use those for some of our new troops. We picked up some good artillery, and yeah, ultimately a lot of our troops got some great experience. Didn't have any unit lose too many. 400 on that A brigade of 2nd Division is a lot, but we can deal with one unit taking a little bit too much, and he also got a lot of kills, so hopefully he'll come out of it with some experience. And yeah, look, kind of all of our units have almost 1,000 each, so really great stuff. So yeah, just want to thank everyone for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video, and I'll see you in the next episode. Bye.